everybody knows me for the most part. My name is James Joynes, also known as Clinker. I've been a musician and composer in Edmonton for longer than I care to admit, I think. Going back 25 years now. I was thinking about that this morning. I started when I was quite young. The thing that I think it all started for me when I was 12 years old, and I wasn't a very cool kid in my neighborhood, and I got invited to the cool kid's house, and he had the cool stereo, and he had the cool records, and his intent, I think, for inviting me over, I was, I don't know, lucky enough to be invited into his house. At least that's how I felt at the time, and he was going to blow my mind, and he actually ended up doing that. He sat me down, and he goes, "I'm going to play you something that's going to blow your mind," and he took the headphones out, and he played me a song called "No Quarter" by Led Zeppelin. It's a really, really moody mellotron. Starts off, it's really kind of a trippy song. The first two lines of the song are like, "Close the door and put out the lights," and that's exactly what he did. He put the headphones on and turned the lights out, and then I just got launched into this world of layered sound. And I mean, I liked music up till that point, but that was like a game changer for me completely. And I remember coming out of that listening experience and thinking, with the clarity, I'm not even sure how I pulled that off as a 12-year-old, but I was thinking, I think my life's mission is to figure out everything about what just happened to me. And it's been an obsession of mine. I moved into, I guess the instrument of choice for many, many years was the bass guitar. And through the process of not being ever able to find a singer that I liked for any of my bands, I ended up trying that and was encouraged. Some people thought I could sing pretty good, so I pushed with that. And eventually went on into playing in bands and touring across Canada for many years in various forms of all kinds of styles of music. Pushing into my late 20s into sort of more progressive metal and that kind of thing. And then from there, I was really serious about it. Like, it was definitely as compelled and as obsessive as I am about what I'm doing now. It was the same way then. But around the age of, I guess, 30, 32, my hair was starting to thin. Didn't quite look as cool with my hair down to my butt. And I was thinking, wow, maybe it's time I look at other things. And at that time, I was really fortunate. I had some other people that had come into my circle and had introduced me to this one summer. It was like, I guess I refer to it as my 3 epiphanies. And they introduced me to the music of Brian Eno, the music of Bjork, and the music of Tortoise, which was like a seminal post-rock band. And this commonality or common denominator in all this music I recognized as synthesizers, or sort of textural sort of sounds. I was just totally intrigued by this idea of sound. I've been a visual artist my whole life, and sort of referenced this. To me, it was like color that was added to, for years I sort of had a really limited idea of instrumentation or what I wanted to work with. It was, your standard sort of rock ensemble. And I moved on from that and bought my first synthesizer, and then, never looked back. I still use the bass occasionally for film scoring and stuff like that if I need to access a melodic instrument that I feel I can play well. But so my work now is really pulls its influence from sort of European minimalism and ambient music, and sort of this really building, this idea of creating a sonic experience where you take the listener on a journey, and it's sort of a, I guess it's arguable. To me, it has a narrative. It's just a really abstract narrative, and it's being shaped live too. So I have a pretty good picture of where I intend to go in a live situation. I also feel in live music, for it to be intriguing for me, there has to be an element of risk involved. And coming from being a musician who's worked really hard at playing an instrument well, and the risk involved in getting up on a stage and performing. And you know, you really have to be in the moment and actually do a good job, and you know, really focus and present something. And there's risk involved in that. So I carry that into the new music that I've been working on for years. A real interest being a visual artist for many years is this correlation between visual and sound. And I've been working for about 12 years on and making those connections. I moved into a genre called live cinema, which is you know, an audiovisual performance sort of genre. And I've done quite a few works now that I've been fortunate to tour them around and had some success at some nice festivals. But I'm really, you know, still always pushing for this connection between sound and visual. And in 1998, at the end of 2008, I was introduced to this film that was made in, I believe, the late 60s by Dr. Hans Jenny. It's called Bringing Matter to Life. And it was an introduction to the term he coined cymatics sound, or this the visualization of actual sound. And I saw this film and I was like, you know, and I was just blown away by this idea that you could actually visualize what sound waves and the individual aspect, or the invisible aspect of sound, by pushing them through matter and shaping them. And that took me back. If you do the research, that all started, you know, almost 230 years ago with this Ernst Cladni, and he discovered what are now known as the Cladni patterns, and they're basically visualizations of resonant frequencies. He started with a metal plate, and he drew a violin bow up the side with particulate matter on it, and when the plate resonates at a certain frequency, the actual waveform energy will have enough amplitude to push into these patterns. And I saw that and I was like, that's just fascinating, a literal visualization of the sound. So that's been my focus for the last 3 years. I've just been obsessed with this idea. I've been fortunate to be invited to the Banff Center to do a research residency there. I spent 6 months in 2009 blowing up a whole bunch of speakers and pushing into developing these techniques. My endeavor was to see if I could actually hone the wave driver machine, which is a pretty volatile instrument, and actually shape techniques where I felt that I could have the control of an artist and actually draw. And so the work I'm doing now I see as sculpting with resonant frequencies. And in the latter part of 2000, sort of losing track here, I guess 2010, I worked on a piece called 12 Tones, which was the first installation. It was shown at Latitude 53 here in January, and had this idea of taking this library of visual images that I'd collected and composing a piece of music from looking at these pictures, these sculptures that I'd made. And I had this idea of this installation where you'd play with the idea of binaural beating and phase shifting, and creating this environment that people could be inside of and have this unique experience of sound, and then bringing in an interactive element with technology. And then I had met Scott Smallwood from the university, and we'd been sort of talking about some of these ideas and Arduino processors, and I'd asked him if because I don't have a background in designing electronics or software, and I knew I'd need to pull this idea off. And I'd asked him if he knew how to do this, or if he was interested in it. And at the time, for him, I guess he'd been thinking a lot about this technology and Arduino, hadn't had a lot of time to play with it, so for him it was an opportunity to push and explore and to see if he could do this. I mean, I said, do you think you could make these? And he's like, I don't know, let's try. And he absolutely pulled it off. It was amazing. So I'd like to play a little video of this period So it's the, yeah, 12 tone, yeah. This is sort of a little bit of me working in Banff, and then sort of the studio setup I had for composing the piece and actually choosing the images that made up the installation. And then a delightful little moment with Scott in his studio when we were developing the tones, the tone circuits. And when you see moments like that, I'm really interested in the idea of animation now. And the piece I played last night was sort of where I'm taking it now.
What did you change?
I changed this number, which this is a magic number. It's not a magic number. It's a counter. It's a counter that's being created in the actual clock that's doing that's creating the sine wave. There's an interrupt process in there, and it's pretty accurate. So I'm using that as a kind of a chunk to base the timing on, because otherwise it'll. I don't want this to interrupt that process. It's so unpredictable.
Well, maybe we could set the rates slightly different for all the different frequencies,
totally.
And then that would open that randomization into the room, right?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
you know what I mean? I just like that idea of like that chaotic, that transfer.
Anyway, because they won't. By design, they won't all be the same because this rate is based on the frequency anyway.
Yeah, right.
Maybe just spin a little bit in the next video really quick. So yeah, I'll take you out of that because we're running short on time here. But again, it's a wonderful process of working with Scott, and I think I kept bringing all these new challenges all the time. And he's just like, okay, yeah, let's see if I can do that too. And slowly massaged our way to this circuit that really pulled off this idea that I had. This is where I'm going now with sort of exploring into the waveform, animating the sound. So essentially building these sound circuits that sweep multiple resonant frequencies across and using voltage bursts and stuff like that to play rhythmically and stuff like that. This is sort of how I did the piece I showed last night. But yeah, this is just kind of go in a little ways, maybe. Video piece, and it's going to be more dynamic and an ambient composition with these bursts of these sound waves coming up and then fading and harmonizing. And at least that's what it is in my brain right now. We'll see what it actually ends up being in a couple months from now. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today, and again, thanks to Sean and Scott and you for putting this fantastic festival on. I think it's been marvelous for Edmonton. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.